We are set for an initial permanency hearing as well as a hearing on the department's motion for an aggravated circumstances finding in this case. The court will recognize the department is present, represented today by Ms. Leslie Levi, by Ms. Beth Morris with Belong. That was good timing with your video starting. In addition, we have Ms. Stacy January here. She is the attorney for the respondent mother, Bailey Mann. I don't believe I see Ms. Mann on the call. Ms. Cecilia Helrung is here as the attorney for the respondent father, Jesus Palomares. Mr. Palomares does not appear to be present either. Mr. Andres Cedillos is the attorney for Daniel Rangel. Neither Mr. Cedillos or Mr. Rangel are present. And we have Ms. Christina Falkowitz here as the attorney for the unknown father. And we have Ms. Lisa Voigt present, who is the attorney and guardian ad litem for the children. We have Ms. Regina Bowling and Mr. Joseph Scheck-Snyder here with CASA of South Texas. So I know we're sort of set for cross purposes today in terms of the initial permanency hearing and an aggravated circumstances motion. I believe the motion's been properly served on all parties, but Mr. Cedillos is not present, which gives me pause since this is directly related to his client as well. Have you had any communication or contact with him, Ms. Levi?
Your Honor, I reached out to his office. I left a voicemail and did not receive any kind of contact back. I was hoping to confer with him about outcomes of this case as well, but I have heard nothing.
Has anyone been in communication with Mr. Rangel or Mr. Cedillos on the case? I wouldn't expect. So
I believe Mr. Rangel is incarcerated. I do believe Ms. Juarez has spoken with the father.
Okay. The aggravated circumstances motion is a pretty serious and significant one. I can imagine. Is there any way, Virginia, that you could reach out to? Do you have his contact information? He's not someone that's.
And Judge, this is Stacy January. I believe the motion pertains to my client as well. She
Yes.
did have a criminal hearing this morning. I'm very surprised she's not present. It was an in-person hearing, so I'm trying to contact her now and check the jail to.
Well,
just
that's
make sure.
you know, I'm here in the county courtroom. There's a district docket here in Wilson County today at the district courtroom, and Mr. Cedillos may be present there as well. Why don't we get started and just start with testimony as it relates to the initial permanency hearing? And if we can do that, I don't believe Virginia even has, you're going to try to find him. Okay. Would you also, I was thinking maybe contact Paula in the district clerk's office, because they're right there. And if he's there in the courthouse and could sign in, or, you know, I'm just thinking that might be a way to get him involved.
Judge,
all
this
right.
is Miss Wallace.
Yes.
I just was going to let you know I'll be happy to call Paula if Virginia wants to work on his office. I can contact Paula and check to see if you would like.
Okay. Okay, that's great. Thanks. I appreciate that. She'll do that. Okay. Let me then go ahead and swear in Ms. Juarez, and you can update me as to the children. I've read the reports. There sounds like there've been some big like some developments, at least as far as Jesus is concerned. So let me get up to date on the kids first and foremost, and then address the participation of the parents. Ms. Juarez, if you'll raise your right hand, do you swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Levi, I'll let you proceed.
Thank you. Ms. Juarez, could you state your name for the record?
Beth Juarez.
And how are you related to this case?
I'm the caseworker for the children and the parents.
Okay, so we have 5 children. Where are they currently placed?
4 of the children are placed at Legacy Ranch. GRO is placed at Connections in New Braunfels.
Okay, let's start with Jesus. How's he doing at Connections?
He's adjusting. He was really scared at first. It took him a little bit because no one told him he was moving prior to me going and picking him up. So that was a shocker. And so he was very angry. He had ran away prior to that because of some anger issues and getting into fights and things that were going on. So he's adjusting. They haven't yet got him into a therapist with a man, which he said he feels more comfortable with, but he is seeing a therapist that they have there. Sarah, I got to speak with her too with him, so he would be a little bit more comfortable. But he's adjusting. He's doing okay. There's been no incidents so far, and he's starting to get into the school right now.
And what about the other children? How are they doing?
All of the kids are very emotional as far as they're blaming themselves. They are just struggling with how to process everything and what's going to happen to them. And they are doing well, but they're still struggling and in need of some definite, a little bit more therapy, I think, than they're getting right now.
What type of therapy are these children receiving?
It's only individual therapy at this point.
Is there a therapist, to your knowledge, qualified to do any type of kind of trauma training or EMDR or something like that?
I'm not sure. I know that they're also, able to interact with the animals that are there, and that's therapeutic, process as well. I know Legacy Ranch does a really good job with some of the other programs that they have to offer the kiddos, but I do think that they need some trauma-based therapy for sure.
Do you think it would be helpful for this court to order that they be put into whatever medium of trauma-based therapy is recommended by their individual therapist?
Yes.
And do you think it would be helpful if this court orders for that to be paid for, regardless of if a provider can be found in network or whether the provider is out of network?
Yes.
I want to ask you, you mentioned that the children are blaming themselves. Can you go into a little more detail about how that looks and the concerns you have for the children's well-being?
I think is probably the one that's taking it the hardest. She is scared that now that she said something that her dad or stepdad is going to retaliate. She has nightmares. She so far, there hasn't been any outcries of suicidal ideations, but that wouldn't surprise me. She's a very closed off kiddo and doesn't like to share a whole lot. It's taking these kids a long time to open up. Even to me, I even think the CASA worker, it's taken her a little bit to, break down some of the walls that they have and get them to open up. And so that sort of thing wouldn't surprise me with me down the road. And as far as the blaming themselves, they're mostly blaming or suffering the consequences for it.
Now, Ms. Juarez, how long have you been with CPS?
Let's see, since 2020, almost 3 years.
Now, is it safe to say that every case you deal with has some form of abuse or neglect and psychological trauma?
Yes, ma'am.
Is this a different level of psychological trauma than you normally see on the day-to-day?
Yes, ma'am.
What concerns do you have about the effects on these kids were they to be placed back in the community or in the family environment where this occurred?
My concerns would be that they would be re-traumatized Even if the parents have rehabilitated, it's still a trust that I don't think those children will ever have back. That sense of security in their home. They're all very scared of their stepdad. Even the children that is their own have seen domestic violence, and they're scared that they're not there to protect her.
Sorry, you broke up. Say that again.
I'm sorry. They've seen domestic violence, and they're scared that they're not there, so they can't protect their mom.
And Your Honor, that's all I have concerning the current status of the kids. Anything else I ask would be going towards the aggravated circumstances motion or parental progress on their plans.
All right. Well, I will note that Mr. Cedillas has joined us. Mr. Cedillas, thanks for getting on board. We didn't want to get started in discussing the parent status in this case until we had you present. So we thank you for being here on behalf of Mr. Palomares. The department has filed a motion for aggravated circumstances. And so I'd like to be able to hear testimony. You're in a position to be with us for the remainder of the hearing?
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right. So Mr. Cedillas is present. And I think we can go ahead and address those other issues now, Ms. Levi.
Thank you. Ms. Juarez, what developments have happened with Mr. Palomares since the last hearing?
He's been served site by pup, but we have not located Mr. Palomares.
And I'm sorry, I should have said, he is the attorney for Mr. Renhel. So I want to make sure that that's the.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes.
Yes, I misspoke. What has happened with Mr. Renhel since the last hearing?
He was released from incarceration and then a week later arrested again on additional charges.
And what were those additional charges?
I apologize. I don't have my court report on me.
Were they related to sexual abuse of the children?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you had a chance to discuss with Mr. Renhel the allegations, the underlying allegations?
Yes, I have.
And what was what did he indicate to you about those charges, about the allegations?
Basically that, he has rehabilitated since that time, that he was using drugs and was just out of his mind, didn't really know what he was doing when he was asking his girls to do that.
So did it seem to you that he was taking responsibility for his actions?
No, he was blaming it on drugs.
Did it seem to you that he understood the magnitude of the emotional trauma to these children?
Absolutely not.
Did he indicate to you, what did he say to you concerning forgiveness?
Well, he said that his wife forgave him and the children have forgiven him.
Did it seem like he felt that because he had been forgiven, the issue was taken care of?
Yes.
Okay. Now, in regards to Miss Mann, have you had a chance to discuss with her these allegations?
Yes.
And what did she indicate to you?
Miss Mann seems to think that the charges will be dropped against her, that she was, in a domestic violence relationship and, couldn't protect her children because of what he would do to her. And yeah, that seems to be her position.
And is it true that Miss Mann was the victim of as a child as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you think that she has any concept of the gravity of what has occurred to her children and what she allowed to occur to her children?
Judge,
No.
I'm going to object to leading and speculation.
I'll sustain the leading. I'll let you rephrase, Ms. Levi.
What concerns do you have about how Miss Mann approaches what has occurred to her children?
She feels as if the children have forgiven their father, therefore it is forgot about. He's working on becoming a better man. And she doesn't seem to have any impact of what the trauma that it caused to her children at all.
What has she said concerning how she feels about Mr. Renhel?
She said she's confused and doesn't know if, because her heart tells her that she loves him and wants to be with him, but her head says that she probably shouldn't.
And what kind of concerns does that give you?
That she still wouldn't be able to keep her children protected from that relationship, protected from a man that they are terrified of. That she still is in that. She doesn't know if she's supposed to do that because that's what we want her to do, or if she should to keep her kids protected. She doesn't seem to have that understanding.
Now, do you believe in this case that services will, that, start that, if these parents complete all of the services asked for them, do you believe that it would be in the best interest of the children to be returned to them?
I do not.
Why is that?
Again, because of the children's level of trauma that they experienced and the trust that they will never have in their parents to keep them safe. And just being back in the environment where the abuse happened, it's definitely not in their best interest, not with the things that they're experiencing as far as nightmares and flashbacks as they're processing all of this.
Are you asking that the department be exempted from the normal statutory requirements to make efforts at reunification with Mr. Renhel and Miss Mann?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, given that we have two other parties, is the department okay with the normal time frame for a trial in this case?
Yes, ma'am.
So we are not asking to move the trial date up unless the court feels that that is necessary. Is that fair to say?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know the nature of the charges against Miss Mann and Mr. Renhel in terms of how much jail time they could be facing?
I'm not sure of the exact, but from what I have looked up, I believe Miss Renhel at a minimum is 2 years for each instance, and she has 4 charges. And Mr. Renhel, I believe, is at a minimum of 25 years.
Does that also give you pause as to the viability of any kind of reunification effort? Your Honor, I'll pass the witness.
Okay. Ms. January, questions from you for Ms. Wars?
Yes. Now, ma'am, are you aware that services have already been court ordered for my client to complete?
Yes, ma'am.
And could you update the court on what she has completed?
Yes, at this time, Ms. Mann has completed her parenting class with Safer Path.
Okay, and are you aware that she has her psychological scheduled?
Yes, for March 22nd.
Okay, and what other services, if you know, has she begun?
That I know of, she has not begun any services other than random drug testing.
Okay, and have you sent her for random drug testing?
Yes, ma'am. And she has been negative.
Okay, and did the department request an OSAR or any information or any services regarding drug testing? or
Only drug
abuse?
testing.
Okay, alrighty. And are you aware that at the time the children came into care, that these were the same allegations regarding my client?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. But yet aggravated circumstances was not requested at the beginning of the case, correct?
I came on a little late to this case, but I don't see any record of them being requested prior to them getting charged.
Okay, and you testified regarding the level of trauma these children have endured. What specific services has the department given these children for the time that these children have been in care?
So far, they've only attended individual therapy.
Okay, and how frequently do they go to individual therapy?
It's 2 to 4 times a month. They also have the on-site therapist, so it's as needed if they're, having a crisis moment or something like that. The therapist can intervene.
Okay, and since the department has had custody of these children, has the department given the children psychologicals?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and what recommendations were in the psychologicals?
The recommendations were individual therapy, some trauma-based therapy. Again, I don't have my court report right in front of me. I want to say it was peer-based support groups, which they do have a CASA representative that assists them, as well as mentors in the home, and they have different sort of, interactions with the animals as far as, equine therapy and some different sort of things that are available at Legacy Ranch.
Okay, and how long ago was it recommended that the children receive trauma-based therapy?
The psychological, I believe, was on the 1st of November.
Okay, so what is that, 3 months ago?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, my client was also a victim of domestic violence and sexual abuse, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and do you know what the children want as regards to their mom?
To their mom, I know that they want to see their mom.
Okay, and do you have any kind of therapeutic recommendation as to whether or not it's in the best interest of the children to see their mother?
No, actually, I do not.
Okay. Do you believe it would be in the best interest of the children for a therapeutic recommendation to be rendered before services are discontinued for the mother?
Possibly.
Okay. You kind of broke up. Was that possibly?
Yes, only because of the notes that I am getting from the therapist. It does not seem that he would recommend that, but
Okay.
I don't have that recommendation.
And could you provide all of the therapy notes and the psychologicals to me or to the parties?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And now we had discussed home studies. Are there any pending home studies for family members?
Yes, ma'am. There's a pending home study for Miss Veronica Perez, Mr. Renhel's sister.
Okay. And do you know approximately when that could be completed or a decision
No,
on that?
the home study is completed. We're just working on some safety assessment to make sure that we address the concerns with Miss Perez as placement.
Okay. And you talked about the children returning to the area. Is she in the area of the family in Wilson County area?
Yes, she is.
Okay. And has the department identified any other family members at this time?
We've identified several family members, but none that would be suitable or are able to take in the children at this time. But I know that I received a Seneca search back yesterday from CASA, and we are exploring other options.
Okay. And Now, the home for the children, all of the children are temporary shelters. If the home study on Miss Pettis doesn't get approved, what's the plan for placement?
We're still looking for placement for all children together.
Okay, thank you. Pass the witness.
All right, Mr. Cedillos, any questions
Uh,
for Ms. Portis?
Yes. Has my client done any classes or any services?
No, sir, he's been incarcerated the majority of the case, and they don't offer services at Wilson County.
And he didn't do at least one class or
No, sir.
No. Okay. Have you talked to him?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And he did he indicate he wants to try to do those requirements?
Yes, he has.
Okay. He was incarcerated for 90 days, right?
Yes,
And he was released on a PR bond.
correct.
And then rearrested within a week or a week and a half on the same related charges, right?
Correct.
Okay. And you don't know that Mr. Rangel, or his wife would be eligible for any kind of probation?
I do not know.
Okay, because you just gave the court your opinion about possible time, right?
Possible, yes.
Okay. Okay, have you drug tested Mr. Rangel?
I have not. He admitted to use prior to the case coming in.
Okay. Okay, and you did, I think in your testimony earlier was that the kids have forgiven him?
According to Mr. Renhel, yes.
Okay. But have you talked to the kids at all about that? About that statement?
No, I have not.
Okay. All right. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right. Let me turn to you, Ms. Hellrung. Any questions from you?
Yes, just to clarify, Mr. Palermo's has not been found, and the information that you have for him is that he is in Mexico, correct?
Correct.
And Ms. Mann has provided no information regarding how to find him, no birth date, no social, no anything that could assist the department in finding him, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now the petition that was filed to end for the aggravated circumstances noted that Mr. Palermo's had left the children in the care of a non-parent. Isn't it true that the
Your
children
Honor,
were with their mother? Is that correct?
to expedite this, the department will waive that. I mistakenly
Okay.
left that in the motion.
Okay, so you're withdrawing the motion as
As
it
to
relates
Mr.
to Mr.
Palmer.
Palomares.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Nothing further.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Falkowitz, any questions from you?
The amended petition also names a Victor Hernandez. Has there been any contact with him?
No, ma'am.
Have you received any other information about him?
No, ma'am.
Has there been any attempt to serve him?
As far as we know, he also is located in Mexico. I've done several searches and hundreds of results come up on just about every search that I do for him. And without a birth date or approximate age, it's very difficult to narrow that down. So no.
Okay.
there's
Have you
no
been able to
contact.
talk with Miss Mann about any other potential fathers for these children?
No, she claims it's Mr. Hernandez.
And even though the motion states that it's against all of the fathers, you're only seeking aggravated circumstances as to Mr. Rangel, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, no further questions, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Waite?
Thank you, Your Honor. As to the children, you said that we need to look into trauma-based therapy. And is that something that you think can be provided to the children where they are at this time? Or is this something that we need to look into an outside provider coming to the children?
I believe that we need to find some sort of an outside provider because I don't believe they have any of them on site.
Okay. Do the children seem stable to you at this time?
Yes, they do.
Okay. And did they understand that Jesus's move was temporary?
Yes.
Okay. Other than that, are all their other needs being met where they are?
Yes, they are.
Okay. And none of the children have made any kind of outcry as to suicidal ideation?
No.
Okay. Did the children ask to visit with any other family relative?
Yes, they have. They've asked for Miss Bettis.
And what are your concerns with Miss Pettis, her home?
The concerns are that Miss Virginia Juarez is her emergency plan, and she would be the one that would be the caregiver after school for the children. And Miss Juarez is not appropriate just based on some history. And in addition to the concerns that we have with her regarding this case and not being protective of the children, also there's an issue of getting her the proper beds for the children so they're not sleeping in the same bed. Her daughter has charges, and it was assault charges that were recent, so we were just making sure that that was taken care of. So there's just a few little safety issues, as well as, you know, some latches on cabinets and trampolines and things like that. Some of the more serious things were what the plan is for after school.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Ms. Juarez, can you just, for my benefit, tell me the day that Jesus was placed at Connections?
January the 31st.
Okay. And what level of care is he?
He is moderate.
And Your Honor, if I may, I have a couple follow-up questions.
All right, go ahead, Ms. Levi.
Ms. Juarez, we talked about the parents not denying the allegations, but just to make the record clear, what were those underlying allegations?
Like
Judge,
what
I'm
the
gonna object to ask and answered already.
Your Honor, I don't think that I put on the record that for this hearing that what we're talking about is of these children. And I think to meet my burden on the motion, I need to make that explicit.
I'm going to overrule that objection. I don't think explicitly the actual allegations and issues were specifically addressed. So I'll let you do that.
Ms. Juarez, we talked about you talking to the father about the allegations. What are those allegations explicitly?
sexual abuse of his two stepdaughters, making them choose between getting spanked with a belt with their pants down or performing orals on him.
Now, I know that you aren't a lawyer, but does that, in your mind, rise to the level of indecency with a child, assault of a child, abandoning and endangering a child?
I'm gonna object to leading, Judge.
I will sustain that objection. And would you like to rephrase, Ms. Levi?
Ms. Juarez, could you get your court report and tell the court exactly what charges Mr. Angel is facing?
Judge, I would object to charges would be hearsay either.
I'm going to overrule that objection. I think she can speak to the current criminal charges these parents are facing. Ms. Levi, do you want to direct Ms. Juarez to a particular part of her report she'd like her to reference?
I think I just found it. On October the 20th, it was 2 counts of aggravated assault of a child and 2 counts of prohibited sexual contact. And then the new charges, I didn't have exact wording on exactly what the new charges were when he was arrested on the 23rd of January.
And for the record, when those charges of, or I'm sorry, the allegations of performance, that's what you were talking about when you said his response was that he was on drugs.
Yes, only regarding the two girls. He did not say anything about abuse of Jesus.
And what is your understanding of Miss Mann's complicity in sexual abuse?
Judge, I'm gonna object to asked and answered already. She's already answered this line of questioning.
Again, I think I missed it on direct. I'm trying to clear it up for the record because I believe all I asked was about her remorse and some of the best interest factors. I don't think I actually did put for this hearing on the record.
I agree. So I'm going to overrule that objection and allow you to answer the question, Ms. Juarez.
Could you state the question again, please?
What was Miss Mann's understanding of what was happening to her children, and what level of complicity did she have in this abuse?
All of the children have said that they told their mother what was going on, and that once their father,
And Judge, I'm gonna
I
object
guess,
to non-responsive as to what my client's response is.
I think it's directly responsive.
I agree. Overruled. You may continue, Ms. Juarez.
once he asked for forgiveness from the children, then she thought that that was over. She was, that the children had forgiven and there was no more issues.
And you asked Miss Mann about having known about this abuse, is that correct?
Yes.
And did she deny that she knew about it?
No.
And what charges are Miss Mann facing?
She is facing, just for the exact wording, it is abandoning or endangering a child.
I'll pass the witness.
All right. Any additional questions for Ms. Juarez from any party?
Your
I
Honor,
do-
I just wanted to ask one question. Ms. Juarez, could you make sure that the permanency report is sent out to the parties? I looked through my email. I did not seem to have a copy of it.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Your Honor, I do have a follow-up question.
Okay. Yeah, you may.
The possible placement of the children with Ms. Pettis. Does the department have any concerns about improper influence, since she is the sister of Mr. Rangel, and any testimony that the children might have to give later regarding this case?
That is something that was taken into consideration also, and that's why it's going up the chain in our department to see if it is appropriate and different things. That's why it is taking a very long time for us to have that, because we are considering that also. Even though Ms. Bettis is adamant that she is able to be protective, she's advocated for the children, and we're still weighing that.
Okay. Are there any other potential homes that have are placements, foster care, that you're looking at where the children could be together?
We have not found any foster homes for the children to be together, all of them together. No.
Okay, thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor, the state would rest.
Any other witnesses from any other party this morning?
No, Your Honor.
All right. If not, may I turn to Ms. Voigt? What is your assessment of how the children are doing, and what is your recommendation to the court on their behalf?
The children were stable when I saw them, but my last visit was right before Jesus was removed. They had concerns about, they asked specific questions that I didn't want to go into about the nature of the case, the progress their parents are making, when they can see their mother, why they're not able to see their mother. They have big questions about all of that. And I talked to them about possible placements outside with foster families, and that it might not be possible unless the children were divided. And the older girls were okay with that, and Jesus was not. He got very emotional quickly at the thought of being separated from his siblings. And so we moved on to I think this is the best place they can be in at this time. I think their needs are being met. Basically, I would like for them to have more therapy. And if there's any other mentoring that can be given to them, they need mothering. I mean, the people that work there are relatively young, and they're kind and they're engaging and they meet a lot of needs. But you can see that there's no maternal figure that fits that role, and that just may not be possible for them, and they're missing that. So the oldest is kind of stepping into that role, even in the placement.
All right. Can I ask, I want to give every attorney a chance to respond to the motion for aggravated circumstances as well. Ms. Levi, do you want to just present argument on that point?
Yes, Your Honor. I mean, this case is very sad. We understand that the children may want to see their parents, but we have a mother who thought it was okay that her husband was sex abusing her children, and we have a husband that was sex abusing her children, and now says, you know, now that I'm clean, it's fine. They've forgiven me. Let's all move on. These children are going to have psychological trauma for the rest of their life. The department does not feel that reunification of these children would be in their best interest at any point. I don't know that we will ever truly trust that these parents have been rehabilitated, and the harm to these children, if something is to happen again, is too great. So we are asking that we be relieved of the statutory burden to make efforts at reunification with Mr. Renhel and Miss Mann. I believe that both parents have admitted to the caseworker the grounds necessary for a finding of aggravated circumstances. Miss Mann has admitted that she knew her children were being sexist and took no protective measures, and that is certainly endangerment of a child. And Mr. Renhel has admitted to contact with the children, which rises to the level of indecency with a child, aggravated sexual assault, injury to a child, abandoning and endangering a child, prohibited sexual conduct. Most of the provisions in the aggravated circumstances statute. I think the statute exists because there is certain types of abuse that we believe is bad enough to justify never putting the children back in the home no matter what services these parents complete. And I believe that the facts of this case rise to that level. To Ms. January's point that the service plans have already been ordered, this motion could have been filed sooner, but the caseworker has changed and the facts are not different based on the tardiness of the motion. And that is the department's ask.
Thank you, Ms. Levi. Ms. January?
Yes, Judge, on behalf of my client, as to the aggravated circumstances motion, Judge, these are, as Ms. Levi stated, these are not new facts. These are the same allegations that were brought forth at the time of the removal. The charges have been pending for months now, and you know, my client is a victim of sexual abuse herself when she was young, and domestic violence. She's taking the opportunity of these classes to better herself. It's clear that the children are struggling. They do miss their mother. And there's not a therapeutic recommendation as to what is necessarily in the best interest of the children right now. There's no harm to continuing the court-ordered services that have been court-ordered. The court's going to continue on the path with the other fathers and the trial. And my client already has the psychological setup and any additional services. There's not a visitation issue at this time, so there's no direct harm for continuing and letting the trial continue. My client is favorable of placement with Ms. Pettis or family members recognizing the seriousness of this case, but she does love her children. She misses her children, and she wants me to advocate for continued offering of services. Judge, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. January. Mr. Cedillos?
Your Honor, I agree with what Ms. January just said. The first part, these facts were already known, and that wasn't pled in the early part of this case. Ms. Voigt gave a statement saying that the kids are interested in the progress of the parents. Now, my client's progress has been stopped because of his incarceration, but he's been to my office after he was released, and he said he's going to work on it as soon as he can. Then he was rearrested. So we're asking the court not to find aggravated circumstances at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Cedillos. And Ms. Hellrung and Ms. Falkowitz, your clients aren't impacted. Ms. Voigt, do you have a recommendation on behalf of the children?
My recommendation would be to grant the motion as to Mr. Rangel and deny the motion as to the mother. I think it can be urged later in the case as well without any prejudice. And I think the facts as alleged and the cases that are just developing support that decision.
Thank you, Ms. Voigt. And finally, Ms. Bowling, I appreciated your written report. I read it and appreciated the detail within it. What else would you like to add in light of what we've discussed, and what is your specific recommendation as to the aggravated circumstances motion?
I truly believe that they should not be returned. I don't think I've spoken with Mr. Rendell, and I've gone up to the jailhouse twice, and he just doesn't seem to get it. He doesn't seem to understand the impact that he has had on these kids by what has happened. And so has Bailey. They don't seem to get it. I think that it would continue. I think there's other aspects of the family that it just isn't a safe situation for them. And I also know they do love and miss their mom, but they're also they're scared. They don't know what's going to happen next and this and that. So also the trauma counseling would be really good.
Governor, may I make a very brief rebuttal?
Yes.
I think Ms. January stated that there is absolutely no harm to allowing it to continue, and I would disagree with that. We concede that the children love their parents. We concede that they want to see their mom. Children often love their parents no matter how heinous the abuse is. What CASA is saying, what the department is saying, is that it doesn't matter that they love their mother, that they want to see her, that this is too dangerous of a situation and the trauma is too great. So I believe that the harm to the children would be mitigated by them having some answers of, no, we do not plan to return you to your parents. And I think being able to give them that answer will mitigate the uncertainty and the fear and the harm that is ongoing to these children.
All right. Thank you all. Based on the testimony the court has heard today, in conjunction with my review of the file and after hearing the argument of counsel, the court at this time does find, pursuant to section 262.2015 of the Texas Family Code, that Mr. Daniel Rangel and Ms. Bailey Mann subjected the children to aggravated circumstances, in that the child or another child of the parent is the victim of serious bodily injury or sexual abuse inflicted by the parent or by another person with the parent's consent, and the parent has engaged in conduct against the child or another child of the parent that would constitute an offense under the following provisions of the Penal Code, Section G, as to Mr. Renhel, Section 22.021, aggravated assault, and J, Section 25.02, prohibited sexual conduct, excuse me, and as to Miss Man specifically, I, Section 22.041, abandoning or endangering a child. The court therefore finds that it is appropriate for the department to be waived of any obligation to continue to provide services or to maintain the current service plans that are in place for Ms. Mann and Mr. Runhell. In reaching this decision, the court finds that the testimony is compelling regarding the parents' own admissions and the fact that neither parent, as of today's date, is in compliance with the plans of service that were developed and in place for them in this matter. The court at this time will continue the current timeline for this case, so we'll maintain, will not expedite the trial setting or as there are no aggravated circumstances findings as to the remaining parties to the suit. But the court does find, as of today's date, that no parent is in compliance with their plans of service, that the department has exercised due diligence to try to locate and serve Mr. Jesus Palomares, but has, as of today's date, been unsuccessful in those efforts. The court is ordering those efforts to continue, as well as to make every effort possible to ascertain the identity of the father of the children that remain in question, to rule out the unknown father and ascertain that individual's identity. The court at this time is going to continue the current placement of the children, find that continuation of those placements are in their individual best interest, that all of their physical and emotional needs are being met there presently, and academic needs as well. And the court is going to order the department to continue efforts to assess relatives for placement, including Ms. Perez. It sounds like you're making every effort to see if any of the concerns that are currently present can be addressed and ameliorated, and I appreciate those efforts. If that can be done, either with Ms. Perez or another relative can be identified and studied, in which all parties are in agreement for placement, the court will go ahead and order an authorized placement in that home without the necessity of coming back to court. If there is disagreement and there is a desire to move forward with placement, then that should be made a subject of a motion for placement for this court's consideration. In addition, I believe this case is appropriate for mediation, and I am going to refer the case to mediation with Ms. Kathleen Savage and order the parties to attend mediation with her prior to our trial setting. The court at this time will remind parties that our next hearing is a permanency review before final order. It's scheduled for June the 14th at 10:30. Is there anything else that we need to address at this time?
Judge, just
yeah,
quickly, I just didn't know if Mr. Cedillo knew if Miss Mann was arrested today or if he was in court with them.
She was in court.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, well then, I don't have a parent here to admonish, so I will see you all back on June the 14th at 10:30.